I hope you've read from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, verse 30 through 44. It's the story of Jesus when he feeds 5,000. It's a wonderful story. And we should start with reminding ourselves of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. That's such a vivid image for us as we think about being satisfied with God as our shepherd. And so we come to this moment in the Gospel of Mark where we see Mark clearly communicate to us that Jesus is one who satisfies us as we seek him, that he meets the deepest longings of our being, and that is everything about life and death, and the fullness of who Christ is, that we can trust him with who we are and be satisfied. And so we come to chapter 6, and hostility is increasing. John the Baptist has been beheaded, and the disciples are weary, right? This is hard on everyone. We seem to forget how poignant these moments are and difficult they are for Jesus and his disciples. And so they're weary, and they try to get away to rest, and they get in a boat with Jesus, but they see him coming and going, and the crowds follow him. And so we have increasing hostility, and we have increasing crowds, and it's spring and the time of Passover, and we come to this place where Jesus is interacting with this large crowd, and evening is coming, and they're hungry, and we see the miracle of the loaves and fishes. And it's just a reminder to us as we come to Jesus. He meets our needs. He cares for us. And so there's lots of things that are happening in this passage. We get a sense of the Passover theme of looking back and rescue and bread in that context. And then I think Mark is loading up this passage with communion imagery, where Jesus breaks the bread with the Last Supper, and he says, "This is my body, take and eat," and which points to the cross. And so all these ideas are swirling in the passage and really bring beauty to this idea of Jesus who brings us to a place of satisfaction in life. And remember this, this does not mean that there will not be troubles, nor hardships, or experiencing brokenness in the world. I just got off the phone with a very old woman who is in hospice care, and I told her in her pain and fears and weariness of life, and so this is the reality of being very old, right? I told her that she was very close to Jesus, and she said, "Yes, I want that." And so, like life happens, we get old, right? Stuff comes our way. And so Jesus, in who he is, meets all our deep longings, but that doesn't mean he takes away all the hard things. And so we live in a broken world. So as we turn to Luke chapter 6, it will pick up in verse 35. By this time, it was late in the day, and so his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and it's already very late. Now send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." All right, so this is a large crowd, right? No, he says, but he answered, "You give them something to eat." I like that. And they said to him, "That would take more than a half of year's wages. And are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it them to eat?" And then Jesus says these words, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." And when they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. And then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in the groups on the green grass. And so that's the Lord is my shepherd imagery from the 23rd Psalm. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. And then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. And he also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. And the number of the men who had eaten was 5,000. So it was a big crowd, right? And so they were satisfied. I mean, that is rich, right? This is not just about food. And the imagery here is spiritual satisfaction as we read the Gospel of Mark. Mark saying, Jesus satisfies. I also like the idea that there were leftovers, lots and lots of leftovers, more leftovers than they had to start with. And there's just beautiful imagery there as well as Jesus goes to the cross and he is broken and poured out for us. There is plenty of him to go around, right? As we come to him, as we read the Gospels, as we partake of who Jesus is, we will be satisfied. So I hope you're satisfied in Christ today, and the beauty of this passage and the hope that we have in one who can do such amazing miracles. Just one little miracle of so many. He rose from the dead. So enjoy chapter 6, read it, spend some time meditating on it, and share it with someone today. Ask them about the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 and tell them about it and reflect on how Jesus has satisfied you. All right, take care. Have a good Wednesday.